The summer heat is here and the coast is calling, and now CityCast listeners can save 20% off weekday stays at SCP hotels, like the Salishan Coastal Lodge. Offering over 200 acres of breezy coastal playground, you and your family can book the perfect getaway that can include everything from golf, zip lines to spa treatments. Best yet, your pup is welcomed. Book your Oregon Coast adventure at salishan.com today with code CityCast. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about a federal investigation into the sale of Ross Island, the lawsuits racking up against Oaks Park, and a potential 2025 ballot measure that would increase property taxes for the funding of city parks and art services. Joining me on this week's Friday News Roundup are KBOO News Director Althea Billings and our very own executive producer, John Notarianni. It's Friday, July 26th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Welcome, everyone, to the Friday News Roundup. Althea, John, thank you for hanging out with me this morning.
Hey.
Hello.
For all of our new listeners, today is the day we break down some of the biggest local stories of the week with some of the best and brightest journalists in town. But before we jump into the news, I usually ask an opening question so our listeners can get to know our guests a little better. And today's opening question is actually related to an episode that's going to be coming out next week. We got Brian of Montevilla, Julia, and myself, and also tape from our listeners that we grabbed at a Sunday Parkway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, out in Cully.
And we asked people what their favorite park was and why. So I'm curious, what is your favorite Portland City Park and why?
Okay, immediately what comes to mind, I really enjoy Sellwood Riverfront Park. I think that's a very fun spot. Having all of that riverfront space, you can wander around in the woods a little bit. There's dogs. Love to see dogs out and about, people playing badminton and stuff. I think it's a really fun one, I also really like Irving Park. But it's also, I think for me, I enjoy a park that is close to other things that I might want to do after or during, the park stay. So if I can get out into the neighborhood, grab a bite, explore, One time I went to Irving Park and I didn't bring a book. And luckily, there was a little free library right over there with some old New Yorkers.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at all the comics. It was great.
I was at Irving Park a couple months ago, and I thought I had the great thought of I'm going to go to Whole Foods and get some snacks, then go hang out at Irving Park because it's right around the corner from there. Literally every single person that walked by had the same thought. There was just a parade of people with snacks from the grocery store going to Irving Park.
Love it. Well, what about you, John?
Right now, I'm pretty into Pier Park. I've been feeling really good on Pier Park up in St. John's. It's got everything. It's got a lot of really nice tree cover. It feels like the temperature drops 5 degrees as soon as you walk into that park.
Oh, yeah.
It's got baseball and sports spaces where you can sort of watch teenagers or sometimes adults playing. It's got a good dog park attached to it. But the thing that really has it on my mind recently is I was recently out in New York State hanging out with my partner's extended family. And you know how sometimes when you meet people that you have nothing in common with, you sort of latch onto one thing that isn't really an interest of yours, but they're really interested in? Mm-hmm. This guy was all about disc golf. And I was like, oh, I have a disc golf course in my neighborhood. And I pulled up some photos of Pier Park and he was just like, oh my God, this is so gorgeous. And he pulled his wife over and the two of them were scrolling the phone, looking at the photos of the disc golf course at Pier Park. And they could not believe how beautiful it was. So Pier Park for the win.
I love that you chose a park because you're just this was my in into my partner's extended family, and I will always love you, Pier Park.
You know what I mean?
St. John's is disc golf obsessed.
Yeah, we even have a store, which is, you know what? More power to every single disc golfer. They don't like it when you call it frolf, I found out.
Frolf.
For the longest time, I thought it was frolf, but I didn't know it was a low-key slur for disc golfers.
It's a disc, okay?
Yeah.
You're going to have to beep that out, Claudia.
I know. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry. You know what? You should just beep it out the whole time. People will be like, what did she say? What? They never beep anything out. What did she say?
And I'm looking forward to hearing your picks next week, Claudia.
Yeah, good. I was like, I'm not going to tell you because
You're already on the record.
Yeah, I'm on the record and it's going to be a surprise. I'm like, I can't wait to surprise everyone. It's not a surprise. Trust me, you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, oh, really?
I can't wait to hear why you love Cathedral Park.
Laugh of recognition. Laugh of recognition I saw right there.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing your favorite park picks. On to the news of the week. Althea, what are you looking at this week?
I pick't out this article from Willamette Week. It's called Federal Investigation Targets Pamplin. A lot of chatter about Ross Island happening. A big fire on Ross Island. They got a lagoon in there. Not everybody knows that. And the Department of Labor is actually investigating something that has to do with the Pamplin Empire. And it has to do with this sale that happened in 2022, where Ross Island Sand and Gravel, that's owned by Robert Pamplin, sold Ross Island to the Pamplin Pension Fund for $10.8 million. And it was previously, Pamplin itself had gone to court saying that Ross Island was of no value. And in fact, there was a lot of overhead related to Ross Island because the company was responsible for a bunch of environmental cleanup and restoration on the island because of the gravel mining that they had done, which proved to be pretty disastrous. And so now Willamette Week found that the Department of Labor is looking into this for violating federal pension regulations. Basically, federally, even if it's a private pension plan, pension funds are required to make investments that are, seen as prudent or diversified enough so that they're not going to likely be a huge loss. So the worry here is that, for a quick $10 million over to sand and gravel, sort of passed off an asset that's not worth anything to the pension fund, to the detriment of folks who worked over at Pamplin.
Yeah, and potentially a liability as well, right? Because aren't there still fines floating around about the environmental cleanup?
Yeah, big fines. Ross Island Sand and Gravel had to put up $6 million for that reclamation process. Apparently they didn't do that. Now there's a $3 million fine attached to it. And, this whole environmental cleanup back in 2011, they were like, we'll have it done by 2023. Just kidding. Give us 10 more years. And can I add a tidbit here? Because, we know Pamplin Media got sold off recently. I didn't know that the Portland Tribune was created by Robert Pamplin Jr. because of an investigation that the Oregonian did about crap they were doing on Ross Island. Yeah. That they had agreed to fill in the lagoon that they mined with a bunch of contaminated soil, which was illegal.
Oh, we knew.
I didn't know about that. I didn't know the lore.
Well, the thing about that lagoon, if you listen to any of the episodes that we had during our River Week, we found out that lagoon, which is basically a carved out island because they mined it, is responsible for most of the harmful algae on the river in our area from where it's at up all the way up to St. John's. It's just they, when they were just like, hey, you can't swim in it, you could just thank the Pamplins every time. You're just like, thank you, Pamplin. I mean, there's other reasons why sometimes you can't swim in that river, but mainly now because of the big cleanup, it's because of this harmful algae.
Right. And I mean, I think that that's such a material impact that we all kind of are familiar with and recognize. There's maybe the need for habitat restoration on Ross Island is a little bit more abstract, but the fact that for 2 to 3 months out of the year, you can't swim or your dog will die in that part of the river, that's wild.
This is my dumb take on this story. Anytime we talk about Pamplin and Ross Island, I'm just shocked that we have to mine for gravel. I didn't realize that gravel was a commodity where they had to be like, oh, you know what we need to invest in is an urban gravel mine in the middle of the Willamette River because we need more gravel.
Totally.
Dude, and who was just like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the water? Go ahead.
Not to be a jerk, aren't there rocks on the ground?
I know.
Is that not enough?
Well, something I know you kind of brushed on, but the fire was huge. The fire that happened, I think it was Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it lasted for almost 4 hours. And it was a 3-alarm fire. And so I was really confused because I realized that I say words a lot and I don't know what they mean. Do you know what a 3-alarm fire is? Do you know what a 4-alarm fire? Do you know? I didn't. So I Googled it and I found out that a 1-alarm fire is when it's just a basic response. Like, you have like one truck and whatever, and they're just like, here we are. 2 alarms means that they're like more just like, okay, we're going to get a hazardous material vehicle and, in a supply shop vehicle and oxygen tanks. And now we have 2 big trucks. And 3 alarm is what they had there. It's triple the amount of firefighters, trucks, and equipment. All the things that I just said before, plus a snack truck.
Wait.
There were snacks.
Oh man, I hope this fire's big enough that we get to bring snacks.
4 hours. They're just like, they're going to get thirsty. And I mean, they are, but now I'm just
of course.
all I could think of was like, what kind of snacks are they eating out there?
5-alarm fire, they get catering.
Members of the Portland Fire Bureau, please write in.
I want to know what a 3-alarm fire call snack is.
Yes, juice boxes. Let's go.
Okay, so another thing that came out through the fire is that, as Althea was saying, how they keep promising to basically give up this land and have someone actually take care of it and take care of the actual animals on there, because there are a lot of birds, all this wildlife that is still hanging on there. So conservation director for the Bird Alliance of Oregon, which used to be called the Portland Audubon, said that birds have very sensitive respiratory systems. So they're just basically like, we're going to find a lot of dead birds. Like 4 hours, yeah. But there's just a bigger push now. And I'm hoping that the city also kind of starts pushing of just like, let the island go.
Yeah, yeah.
A lingering legacy of private islands in city limits?
Yeah.
That's wild on its own. What do you mean you own an island in Portland?
It's like, what do you mean you're the queen of Ross Island? You know what I mean? It's like someone saying that. You're just like, there's no monarchy on Ross Island.
There's barely birds now.
I know. What are you talking about? Okay, so
birds and burnt tires. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's what caught fire was all these tires, which again brings us back to The Simpsons. So the Oregonian basically stated that since 2001, Pamplin has been saying, yeah, we're going to give you guys the island back.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing, a question there is these sort of fees associated with the environmental cleanup, which, I'm trying to like not overstate it, but the fact that like these fines are accumulating for an environmental cleanup that hasn't happened at the same, in the same era that there's an investigation going on about this transfer of the island.
What do you think it means, John? Break it down.
I am trying not to connect too many dots to make accusations, but there are fees that are associated with an environmental cleanup that hasn't happened, and the assets have been transferred away from like one fund into a pension fund that is associated with a newspaper empire that has been sold off. So, you can sort of move the shells around as you see fit.
Maybe I'll be the one to draw on John's implications here. But like, if things play out in a certain way, who ends up holding the bag? If there's this
right.
money being shuffled around, these fines not being paid, this cleanup not being done, it's people who worked for this company in the past whose pension fund may be worth a lot less than it's supposed to be. And it's everybody who uses the river and the birds. The birds are holding the bag. Like, it impacts a lot more people than just, we move some money around and what's your big problem with it, the Department of Labor?
It's hard for a bird to hold a bag.
Well, they have talons.
No one's suing the birds, John.
And beaks.
But no one's suing the birds, John. I love that I just made it sound like you said that and you were just like, I was being cute. I don't know why I'm getting yelled at.
Yeah. recurring situation.
John, do you think you're always being cute and I'm always yelling at you? Oh.
I'm always being cute, aren't I, Claudia?
I love that. Oh my God. This is what I was going to say. I was like, I feel like Pamplin might be our Mr. Burns at this point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I like that.
Where every time you're just like, why would you block out the sun, Mr. Burns?
Yeah.
Why'd you dig a hole in the river like that?
It's kind of evil, but also just weird.
Yeah, exactly.
To get gravel?
Whatever.
There's rocks on the ground.
Well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, more headlines of the week. Making the right senior living choice is more than just a simple move for your parents. These are long-term care plans. You need solid information and the right person to walk you through each step of the decision-making process. And Lynn Smarges is that person. She's a trusted senior advisor and placement specialist that works tirelessly to ensure your loved ones find the best care tailored to their specific needs and preferences. From independent living and assisted living to memory care, Lynn guides you every step of the way, offering advice, valuable resources, and unwavering support. She researches the retirement communities which best fits your senior family members' circumstances. Not only that, she sets up the appointments to tour these communities and walks her families through each tour, advocating for them. You can rely on Lynn to offer your family the care and compassion you need during your senior living journey, because sometimes you just need that extra hand. You can also find out more about everything Lynn has to offer by tuning into her podcast, Caring for Your Aging Parents, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of your favorite listening platforms.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. The best way to learn a language is immersion, living where the language is spoken and using it every day. That's how I learned French as a kid. But if that's not in the cards for you this year, you can still learn a language the second best way, and that's with Babbel. I live in a city with a huge immigrant population. You probably do too. And in my hometown, a lot of my new neighbors speak Spanish as a first language, and we have lots of great Mexican and Central American and South American restaurants and stores. I wanted to be able to communicate just a little bit better with some of my neighbors. So I started with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that actually works. And after just a few extremely enjoyable weeks learning Spanish with Babbel, I've already gotten comfortable ordering at a restaurant and eavesdropping on my girlfriend's conversations with her mom. Look, learning a language isn't always easy, but with Babbel it is fun and it feels useful, basically immediately. That's why Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold. Plus, all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Every day, data brokers collect and sell your personal information to third parties, like your address, phone number, health and financial records, even your social security number. Then this information is used against you by scammers and spammers. And it doesn't end at annoying robocalls or junk emails. Your identity could be stolen. But an excellent way to stay safe out there is by checking out Incogni. That's INCOGNI. It only takes about 3 minutes to set up, and then it gets to work scrubbing all your personal information from the web. They tackle over 180 data brokers and people search sites, update you with progress reports, and offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So protect your data, your time, and sanity with Incogni. And right now, CityCast Portland listeners can use the code CityCast for 55% off the annual plan at Incogni.com. That's INCOGNI.com. All right, guys, so this week I'm looking into all the lawsuits that are piling up against Oaks Park after a ride left riders hanging upside down for about 25 minutes. I relied on reporting by Portland Business Journal reporter Elizabeth Hayes. If you don't remember, on June 14th, 28 people, which included tall children, were trapped hanging upside down 50 feet above the ground on a ride called Atmosphere, which already, and fear's all caps, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a detail, I must say. It's one of those like pendulum-shaped rides, and it got stuck in the apex position. So the latest suit filed this Monday in Multnomah County Circuit Court on behalf of one of the riders is asking for up to $345,000 in damages. It's the fifth one filed so far, and according to the attorney who appears to be filing all of them, more are expected to be filed. And that immediately was one of the more interesting parts of the story, is that a single attorney appears to be filing all of these lawsuits, a Michael Fuller. And if you Google him, like I did, you'll find that his business name appears to be Oregon Lawyer for the Underdog, and it has 4.4 stars, which is not bad. I would call. And a really great picture of him wearing an Adidas tracksuit posing next to like a little rascals looking white pit bull. Just an image for you to file away. So attorney Michael Fuller was quoted in the article as saying, Oaks Park appears to have $5 to $10 million in insurance coverage, which should be enough to cover everyone's injuries. So he did his homework. What do you guys think?
I mean, we saw it coming. No, that of course there's going to be lawsuits about something like this. I always remember like when the first lawsuit came out, there was the mother who filed it was quoted as saying, I might not have filed a lawsuit, but the owner was such a jerk about it to the victims when we got off. They're like, no, we'll reimburse you for your ticket. And, maybe we could even arrange a replacement for you to come back sometime. It's
my God.
Are you kidding?
A free day pass. Hey.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's pretty alarming is that the park reopened the ride after closing it for 11 days, and they never identified any reason for the malfunction, and they've not also communicated a plan that's in place in the event that it happens again. Because that's the reason why they were upside down for so long, is that they didn't have like a plan B. They didn't have like a tall enough ladder. They didn't have, I don't know, just any backup of like, what if this happens? And I guess you're supposed to.
To me, it reminds me of, how like sometimes like during a basketball game, the ball gets like lodged in a weird position, it gets like stuck like next to the backboard and everyone's just like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. And then they have to go and like get a cheerleader that they lift up to like get the ball down. I feel like this was that same sort of situation where they're looking at it and they're like, I didn't even know that could be a thing that would happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's a quote from the lawsuit. And this is like what I was like, ooh. Riders were screaming for their lives, throwing up, crying, passing out, and praying to God for 25 minutes until the ride was finally lowered to the ground. Can you imagine throwing up while upside down? That alone would make me sue. Like, I don't care if I'm up there for like 5 minutes. If you make me puke on my eyelashes, I'm like taking you down.
It's good for a couple 100,000, I think.
That's, immediately, So according to this lawsuit, the latest one, the plaintiff's name is Felix Solano, and he says he also experienced chest pain, headaches, ongoing numbness in his legs, nerve complications, medical expenses, and ongoing post-traumatic stress and anxiety. And he went on the ride with his daughter. The lawsuit alleges that Oaks Park Association failed to maintain and operate atmosphere in a safe condition. I guess they have record of that, and they didn't have, of course, any necessary tools on hand to properly repair it. To your point, Althea, the other thing that they're just like, and another thing, is that they said there was no communication. Those entire 25 minutes from any of the operators or owners just to be like, this is what's happening.
We're working on it, and we noticed that you're up there.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we didn't plan for this. Usually you'd be down by now.
Which they said like led to more panic. So here's the deal. Immediately, I was like, who is this Michael Fuller? And then I found out that he actually swooped in and helped out a local Asian business owner, pro bono, who was getting sued for a supposed ADA violation. I don't know if you guys remember this, but KGW, like a bunch of places, earlier this month reported on what appeared to be a targeted grift by an out-of-state firm, Wampler, Carroll, Wilson, and Sanderson of Memphis, Tennessee. They filed 47 ADA lawsuits, and oddly, half of them were Asian small business owners. And what was even ickier was that they hired like local attorneys to do their dirty work. So these business owners would get these urgent letters basically saying, hey, if you don't comply with ADA laws and settle with these local attorneys, which averaged 10,000, they will be getting sued for even more. And these letters basically said you have 2 weeks to comply, and there were no specifications of what needed to be fixed. So these poor business owners, many who were immigrants and who are still mastering English, would just panic and pay. And at several of these business owners that were followed up with, they realized that like when they paid, they also require them to sign a non-disclosure agreement, keeping the whole thing silent. So it just kept happening. And Oregon lawyer for the underdog, Michael Fuller, actually did stick up for an underdog and saved a woman like thousands and thousands of dollars. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that before they started judging his intentions with Oaks Park, since he appears to be the only lawyer filing these lawsuits.
Doing the right thing.
I know, because at first, I mean, I'll be honest, I saw the tracksuit and I was like, I don't know about this guy. I was like, what's going on here? But now I'm just like, you know what? Get him, Michael Fuller, get him.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see like what happens when you max out your insurance coverage. I mean, do you just go into bankruptcy immediately?
Yeah.
But because looking at the numbers, the latest lawsuit is for $345,000. If all 28 riders, go for around that much money, that is going to max out the highest estimate of what the insurance coverage that Oaks Park has. So it could potentially bankrupt the park.
That'd be so sad.
It would be sad.
Because I do love having Oaks Park around. It's just really cute that we have it. But also, I don't want people to be puking on their eyelashes, you know?
Yeah. And think of the 16-year-olds. Where are they going to have their first job?
They could take my job.
Where are they going to hang out? The mall? Actually, they probably will hang out at the mall. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about you, John? What are you looking into this week?
I'm looking at a story about taxation and levies, which could be an immediate snooze fest, but I think it's actually pretty interesting when you look at what is at stake here and what these taxes could potentially fund. So the city is beginning to consider a ballot measure that would combine the city's parks and arts taxes into basically a single fee and a bigger one. Right now, there is a tax that goes to Portland homeowners to support parks. There's also the arts tax, which goes to all residents that are 18 and older with incomes above $1,000. But the current parks levy expires at the end of 2025. So there's some polling that is happening that would basically boost this combined tax, putting them together. That would mean that it would cost the sort of median homeowner $477 a year. So the question is there's been concerns about taxation for sure. There's been concerns about some of the new taxes that we've implemented in the last couple of years that were just sort of wait, how is this actually working? And then the arts tax itself is sort of a perennial punching bag of people being frustrated with it. I think back to an episode of CityCast Portland from last year that was titled, Should We Stop Paying the Arts Tax? But yeah, people love parks, people love arts, people hate paying taxes.
It seems like a big swing, to be honest. It's also at this moment where Governor Tina Kotek has tried to get everybody to commit to no new taxes in the metro area for the next 3 years. So a renewal, I guess, of just implementing the same thing again wouldn't run afoul of that. But obviously, there is this sort of perennial resistance. I think tying them together is kind of interesting. It's also interesting to me that these are the things that, city government goes directly to voters to ask for, as opposed to folding into the city budget, because, there's plenty of other city departments that it's not like, hey, do you agree that we should continue to have, I don't know, the water bureau? Do you still like having that? And I don't know, it kind of puts them in this more optional category that is a little odd. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Claudia?
Boo. I hate it. I don't like it.
Taxes or art?
I love art. Ever since I bought a house, I hate taxes even more. And especially, John, when you said, because it's about 500 or so extra, but that's if your house is valued at 400 or whatever. If your house is valued for more and they're, accrued value, it's not like they just bought it today. A lot of these people are retired. They're on a fixed income. And the thing that keeps creeping up are the taxes to live here. And you're not seeing much of a return. So I just feel like right now is not the time to ask for money. Right now is the time to maybe start using the ton of money that the city and the county has from pretty much all sources, federal, state, us, everyone, and just use it effectively. That's where I'm at right now. I know everyone's like, oh, well, this is a different bag where a little different section where the money, and it's we'll figure it out. I'm just getting tired. I just think this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, the current levy is a third of the Park Bureau's annual operating budget.
It should have come from us. It should come.
But it does, and Portland has one of the highest marginal tax rates in the nation. But that's not just city taxes. A lot of that is state taxes. A lot of that is county taxes and regional levies that have been placed. I'm in favor of it if they can get the implementation right. We've clearly just had some sort of messy implementations of new taxes over the last couple years.
How many messy implementations in the last 5-6 years?
I
do
mean,
you think?
obviously there's two really high profile ones. There's the homeless levy, and then there's sort of like the environmental tax, which is not to say, those aren't necessarily all on individual homeowners.
That wasn't even the two I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Well, which ones were you thinking of, Althea?
Well, preschool for all, although I guess that's countywide. I was thinking preschool for all. I wouldn't necessarily put the clean energy fund in that category
because we don't pay for it, really. It's the business owners.
The housing tax made a lot of money, did not spend a lot of money. The thing that is notable for me is that this is a sustaining level of taxation. I mean, they're rolling things together, but they're asking for more money to do the same thing that they've been doing. It's not like, hey, we're going to do new parks, or we're going to expand our services in this way. Folks, we can't even keep the lights on, or we need to take the light poles down because they're rotting. It strains credibility a little bit. So I think, if this is something that does go to the ballot in 2025, Parks needs to kind of get their act together. It's like, hey, we promise we can keep the lights on. Please give us money.
That's what I'm saying. I just don't think there's a big enough return for all the money we keep giving them. And I love parks, but a part of me is just like, it shouldn't all come from property owners. That alone is just a burden that it keeps just on the shoulders of only property owners doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, the thing that I was going to say is that, yes, we do have high marginal tax rates, but we also have a rather unregressive taxation structure, right? Which means that it is not overburdening people who have lower incomes. And I think that part of putting these things on property owners is avoiding these super regressive taxation structures that exist in other places, right? Where the lion's share of the taxes do fall on the poorer people. And finding money for municipal services is never going to be an easy thing. But I kind of like the way that Oregon does it. And I think that, we do need to fund these things. We do, I think we can all agree that these are really important parts of our community that we love. And maybe there is a tax wizard out there that has a better model for how to do it, but I don't. I think Claudia should pay for it.
Me, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Summoning the tax wizard. Go, Claudia.
Oh my God. Is this you being cute again, John?
So cute.
You're so cute right now. No, I don't think I should pay for it. All of it. But here's the deal. We have given so many breaks to so many entities, not even people, just entities. And we've collected so much money from them that we're not using. And part of me is just use some of that money.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be on the property owner. And especially, part of me is Governor Tina Kotek told you guys to knock it out for 3 years. And again, I love Parks and Rec. I just think that the way everything is financially set up is BS, and we need to stop supporting the way they're doing business, if that makes sense. Because it's a business at this point. I'm I don't like the way you're doing business. It's not working out for us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean that in terms of the siloing of funds, or in terms of the way that Parks and Rec is handling things?
Both.
Okay.
The fact that we've been already we did that levy and we don't have lights just says a lot to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm just come on, man.
All right. Claudia says no money for parks until you sit down and behave.
Get the ladder. I know you have a tall one because of the Oaks Park thing. Okay.
Yes.
Get up there. How many dollars does it take to change a light bulb? How many parks employees?
They're $200 million.
No taxation without illumination. I'm just making up slogans at this point.
Oh my God. No taxation without illumination is amazing. Thank you. That's really good. Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me, talking through some of these headlines. Now we know that I clearly hate the Parks and Recs department. Yeah, we've learned so much today. We don't have a big enough ladder to get people out from atmosphere. And John is adorable.
Oh,
those are all the three. These are the three main tenets I hope people take away from today's discussion of the headlines. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Take it into the weekend.
Thanks for having us, Claudia.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. Our executive producer is John Notarianni. Our producers this week were Julia Fiaioni, Selena C.A. Reynolds, and Francisco Kilgore. Our Hey Portland newsletter editor is Rachel Monahan, and our host is me, Claudia Meza. Original music by Jenny Conley and Steven Drizos. Additional music by Epidemic Sound and All the Kimonos. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you with Slims.